The Gemara in Maseches Taanis famously says that Mishnichnas Adar marbim simcha, when the month of Adar approaches, we're supposed to vamp up our simcha, vamp up our joy. We have to increase. How do we do that? In order to increase joy, we need to do two things. Number one, we have to realize what our identity is. Our identity is not just ourselves, but we're part of something much bigger. We're part of a larger Jewish family. We're part of a community. We're part of a mission statement that God had created, which is to make this world a dwelling place for God. We're part of something much larger than ourselves. And taking the spotlight off ourselves, but more focused on who we are as a whole and what our mission and purpose is, inspires us with joy. But there's another component here, which is also focusing on who we are as individuals, our individual self, our individual purpose, our individual passion and experience of what life really is. And it's almost like two opposites coming together. And when we can unite both of these, when we can live with both of these, we can experience incredible joy. The Mishna at the beginning of Maseches Shkalim says that on the 1st of Adar, they would make two announcements in the times of the Beis HaMikdash. Announcement number one, they would remind everybody to give their annual donation of a half a shekel. That half a shekel was used for korbanos, was used for public sacrifices in the Beis HaMikdash. Everybody had to donate a half a shekel. Announcement number two, they would remind everybody not to crossbreed in their fields. Kalayim. Kalayim is the prohibition of crossbreeding diverse plants and fields. And that was an annual reminder as well, because that's going to cause problems down the line if that were to actually happen. It's an interesting, two very different reminders, both on the same day and both being taught about in the same tractate and even in the same mission in the same sentence. They seem to be very different. Shkalim, the half a shekel, is the epitome of unity. Everybody's giving a half because we all complete a whole of each other. Right? Nobody on their own is complete. We're all complete because we're all part of a larger sum. That's what the whole message of the shekel, of the half shekel mitzvah is. And we continue this to this day, at least on a level of tradition, even though it's not technically a mitzvah. Right? We practice this idea of we're each going to give half because together we complete a whole. And then there's the kalayim, there's the prohibition of crossbreeding, where you have two different plants that theoretically can be combinable. They can be planted together. They can morph into a new identity and a new unity, and we're told to keep them separate. So there's the concept of unity that we remind everybody on the 1st of Adar, where we're supposed to increase simcha. There's the concept of individuality that we're also reminding everybody about on the 1st of Adar. Because in order to have a proper Adar, in order to have proper simcha, proper joy, we have to connect to who we are as a whole, but we can't forget who we are as an individual. I'll give you a perfect example in how this applies in mitzvah observance. Mitzvah observance, generally speaking, is not about the individual, but it's about the bigger picture. There's a certain unifying factor that comes through mitzvahs. Whoever's watching this right now, let's say there's you, there's me, and there's Moses, right? The three of us, we're very different. Very different. I mean, I wouldn't be able to compare myself to Moses by any means. You watching this, I don't necessarily know you, although maybe I do. But there's three diverse people. But if we're all doing a mitzvah, if we're all putting on tefillin, despite how great Moses is, and despite where I might be compared to Moses, and despite where you might be, there's something uniting us, which is this objective connection to God. So that's the bigger picture. That's the shekel connection. The connection that expresses itself in who we are as a whole. We could connect with anybody on that level. But then there's who we are as individuals. There's the kavana, the intent, the passion, the feeling that I put into putting on that tefillin. And the understanding that goes into the mitzvah. And the experience, the spiritual experience that goes along with it. And my personal experience, your personal experience, and certainly Moses' personal experience are going to be quite diverse. And with every mitzvah, and the truth is with every relationship, you have this dynamic of what this is as a whole, and then who we are as individuals. You have this in marriage as well. In marriage, you have your own personal opinion, your own personal identity, your own personal needs and drives and desires. And then there's who you are as a unit, as a couple. And you kind of cycle back and forth between these two to preserve these two. Because if you suppress who you are as an individual and you just neglect it, well, it's going to resurface. It is a very real part of you. But if you're only focused on who you are and you're not focused on the other person, you're not focused on your identities as a unit, as a couple, well, that can also be suppressed. That's a very real part of you as well. And you have to kind of go cycling back and forth. That's why the Alter Rebbe says in Likutei Torah that a relationship is called a shir, a song. Like Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon's Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. Why is it called a song? Because a song constantly cycles. A song is never just this monotone even, otherwise it would be a speech. A song is this series of ups and downs, of connection, of closeness, of space, and of embracement. You're going back and forth, or as Kabbalah describes it, ratzai and shuv, this desire to become one, and then this recognition that there needs to be an individual identity with space and thoughtfulness. We have to go back and forth in order for this relationship to be sustainable, and it's true in our relationship with God, it's true in our relationship with our spouses, it's true in our relationship with the Jewish people as a whole. There's our collective self, there's our individual self, and they're both incredibly important, and when they're both developed at the right balance in the right way, where they're not suppressing each other, but they're complementing each other, we have the ability to facilitate incredible joy for the month of Adar. I wish you a very joyous Adar, and God willing, we'll all celebrate together very soon. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.